Shoyu ramen. Shoyu ramen is the oldest and most widespread style of ramen in Japan. It originated in Tokyo in 1910 at a restaurant called Rairaken, opened by a Chinese immigrant named Wang Wenkai. The broth is made from chicken or dashi stock seasoned with soy sauce, giving it a clear brown color and a sharp, savory flavor. Toppings typically include chashu pork, bamboo shoots, nori, and a soft boiled egg. Tokyo-style shoyu ramen uses a thin, straight noodle that absorbs the broth quickly. Today it accounts for nearly 35% of all ramen consumed in Japan. Miso ramen. Miso ramen was invented in Sapporo, Hokkaido, in the late 1950s by a restaurant owner named Morito Omiya. He began adding miso paste to his broth after a customer requested a heartier flavor. The cold northern climate of Hokkaido made a rich, warming soup essential. Miso ramen uses fermented soybean paste blended with chicken or pork broth, creating a thick, opaque, deeply umami liquid. The noodles are typically wavy and medium thickness. Common toppings include corn, butter, bean sprouts, and ground pork. Hokkaido miso ramen remains one of the most recognizable regional ramen styles in the world. Tonkotsu ramen. Tonkotsu ramen originated in Kurume, Fukuoka in 1937, though it became internationally famous through the Hakata district of the same prefecture. The broth is made by boiling pork bones at high pressure for 12 to 18 hours, breaking down collagen into gelatin and creating a milky white, intensely rich liquid. The fat content of tonkotsu broth is significantly higher than other styles, giving it a creamy mouthfeel. Noodles are thin, straight, and firm. Toppings include chashu, pickled ginger, sesame seeds, and green onions. Fukuoka has over 1,500 ramen shops, one of the highest concentrations of any city in Japan. Shio ramen. Shio means salt in Japanese, and shio ramen is considered the oldest of all ramen varieties, predating even shoyu. It is believed to have origins in Hakodate, a port city in southern Hokkaido, where Chinese and Japanese culinary traditions merged in the late 19th century. The broth is light, clear, and pale yellow, made primarily from chicken, seafood, or dashi with sea salt as the primary seasoning. It is the most delicate of all ramen styles, allowing the quality of the broth to speak without heavy seasoning. Toppings are minimal, typically chicken, bamboo shoots, and yuzu zest to enhance the subtle flavor. Tsukemen. Tsukemen, also called dipping ramen, was invented in 1961 by Kazuo Yamagishi at a restaurant in Tokyo called Taishoken. Instead of serving noodles submerged in broth, tsukemen presents thick, chewy noodles on a separate plate alongside a concentrated, intensely flavored dipping broth. The noodles are typically 30 to 40% thicker than standard ramen noodles to hold up to repeated dipping. The broth is often a rich blend of pork and fish with a slightly acidic and sweet profile. Diners dip each mouthful individually. After finishing the noodles, broth is added to dilute the remaining dipping soup into a drink. Tantanmen. Tantanmen is the Japanese adaptation of the Chinese dish dan dan noodles, which originated in Sichuan province in the 1800s. It was brought to Japan in the mid-20th century and significantly modified to suit Japanese palates. Japanese tantanmen features a sesame and chili oil-based broth, often blended with soy milk or tahini to reduce the intense spice of the original. Ground pork seasoned with dubanjiang, a fermented chili bean paste, sits on top alongside bok choy and a soft egg. The dish balances heat, nuttiness, and umami simultaneously. It remains one of the most popular spicy ramen varieties served in Japanese restaurants globally. Ie-kei ramen. Ie-kei ramen was created in 1974 by Minoru Yoshimura in Yokohama, Japan. He combined the rich, fatty qualities of tonkotsu broth with the sharp seasoning of shoyu, creating a hybrid style that became the foundation of an entirely new regional tradition. The broth is thick, dark, and intensely savory, served with wide, flat noodles. A defining characteristic is that diners can customize the richness of the broth, the firmness of the noodles, and the amount of tallow added. Toppings are standardized: spinach, nori sheets placed upright in the bowl, and chashu. Over 700 ie-kei-style shops now operate throughout the Kanto region of Japan. Abura soba. Abura soba, which translates to oil noodles, contains no broth at all. It emerged in Tokyo in the 1950s and has experienced significant growth in popularity since the 2000s. A small amount of seasoned oil, soy-based tear sauce, and sometimes a raw egg yolk sits at the bottom of the bowl. Hot noodles are placed on top, and the entire dish is mixed thoroughly before eating. The result is a rich, coating, deeply savory noodle experience. Toppings include chaeshu, green onions, nori, and vinegar served on the side. Adding vinegar midway through the bowl is traditional and changes the flavor profile dramatically. Calorie content is often lower than broth-based ramen, despite the richer taste. Maizmen. Maizmen is a brothless ramen style closely related to abra-soba, but considered more refined and the name means mixed noodles. It gained mainstream attention in the 2000s when creative ramen chefs in Tokyo and Osaka began using it as a vehicle for experimental flavors including truffle oil, uni, carbonara-style ingredients, and even cheese. Unlike abura soba, which has a fixed traditional format, maizmen has no standardized recipe. The noodles are dressed in a concentrated sauce rather than sitting in liquid, allowing toppings to remain vibrant and texturally distinct. It is particularly popular in high-end ramen restaurants, where chefs treat it as a culinary canvas. Spicy miso ramen. Spicy miso ramen is a variation of Hokkaido-style miso ramen with significant additions of chili paste, doenjang, or togarashi blended directly into the miso base. It became widely popularized in the 1980s as Japanese consumers developed a stronger preference for bold, intense flavors. The broth is thick, red-tinged, and deeply complex, combining fermented miso with layers of heat and sweetness. Ground pork is typically stir-fried with garlic and chili before being added to the broth, creating a layered depth. Noodles are wavy and robust to withstand the heavy sauce. Corn and butter are common additions that balance the spice with natural sweetness. Hakata ramen. Hakata ramen is the purest and most iconic expression of tonkotsu style, originating specifically from the Hakata ward of Fukuoka City. Unlike other regional interpretations, Hakata ramen uses only pork bones with no chicken or seafood added to the broth. The noodles are extremely thin and straight, cooked for less than 60 seconds. A defining feature of Hakata ramen culture is kaidama, the practice of ordering additional noodles to be dropped into your remaining broth rather than ordering a second bowl. The custom began in post-war Fukuoka as an economical option. Hakata ramen shops typically operate 24 hours and account for a significant portion of Fukuoka's tourism economy. Sapporo ramen. Sapporo ramen is the definitive regional ramen of Hokkaido and one of the three most famous styles in Japan, alongside Hakata and Tokyo ramen. It uses a miso-based broth as its foundation, but distinguishes itself through the use of lard, which is stirred directly into the soup to create a layer of insulation against the cold Hokkaido climate. The technique keeps the broth hot, significantly longer than standard preparations. Vegetables, including corn, bean sprouts, and onions, are stir-fried in a wok before being added to the bowl, giving Sapporo ramen a distinct smoky undertone. The noodles are thick, wavy, and designed to carry heavy broth. Sapporo hosts an annual ramen festival, attracting over 200,000 visitors. Wakayama ramen. Wakayama ramen comes from Wakayama Prefecture in the Kansai region and represents one of Japan's most underrated regional styles. It blends two seemingly opposite broth traditions, tonkotsu and shoyu, into a single bowl, creating a dark, rich, yet surprisingly clear soup. The combination produces a savory depth that neither style achieves alone. Noodles are thin and straight. A defining cultural tradition in Wakayama is eating ramen alongside a small dish of mackerel sushi called hayazushi, a pairing that has existed for over a century in local culture. Wakayama ramen gained national attention after appearing on a popular Japanese television program in the 1990s, causing tourism to the region to increase significantly. Okinawa soba. Okinawa soba technically sits outside the official classification of ramen in Japan and is instead recognized as its own distinct noodle category. However, it is commonly grouped within ramen discussions due to its broth and noodle format. The broth is made from pork bones and bonito flakes, producing a lighter, cleaner flavor than mainland tonkotsu. The noodles are thick, round, and wheat-based, but do not contain the kansui alkaline solution that defines standard ramen noodles. Toppings include rafute, which is Okinawan slow-braised pork belly, fish cake, and pickled ginger. Okinawa soba has been officially registered as a regional protected food product by the